about a product usually. However, it is a must. I've been using and paying for Claude for about a month, and I've done a lot of work with it on a free version, but then I said, let me pay for it, and I paid for it. Upon, the advice of others who are really, really keen on using another product, I switched my paid subscription to ChatGPT. And Chat helped me write a workflow. And I said, okay, it's better. It doesn't have some of the issues that Claude has, which is session timeout and token limits. So I said, let me switch over. Switched over and had it write a production workflow, which you're going to see a lot of that on the screen right now. But I got to a point where I said, okay, chat is a little frustrating. GPT 5.1 is a little frustrating, but let me, give it the benefit of the doubt. It helped me write the workflow, and it refused to write the full workflow because of limitations. So I said, let me work around it and do a modular. Did the modular and had some issues with that, which I'm going to try to show. Uh, So, I mean, over and over, I told it to like print, like give me an output of a file. And then I said, okay, maybe the session is getting to a limit. So I said, um, let me do an output, but I'm going to where it started, just so you could say, as you see, I just said, you're gonna see. Okay, okay, I said proceed with batch coordinator one time there, and I'm going backwards just to show you just how far. And those aren't important. So it said, no, it's going to print out, confirm that this is what I want, and it'll print out a downloadable JSON file. Okay. I said, it's correct. I said, okay, this is crazy. And I said, provide the updated batch coordinator, which is just a file. It's a small file too. And then it said, okay, important. And it told me to upload a blank file because it couldn't generate the file. So I uploaded a blank text document just to like nudge it a little bit. And it said it'll save the file to this container, which is on its side. Users don't have access to this container. So I was like, okay, I can't download the document. So I said, hey, it says, okay, the JSON will be ready in the next message. So I'm like, okay, I'm ready. Still can't give me access to the file. So I'm saying, okay, man, this is frustrating me now. I said, I'm going to contact help desk, which I did. And then it still wouldn't output the file. And it kept saying, hey, the file is large, which is not large at all. It's a very small file. And it said is having a file. So anyway, this was the file issue. So let's get to the main thing. Oh, here's where it said upload a blank file, which I did, which was just an empty text file, so that it could spit out the coordinator. And then I said, okay, you're not creating a file, just write it in the chat window so I have access and I could copy it into the file. And then it finally kicked out a document which I saved. And then it kicked out another document, which should have been the exact same thing, which I saved. And then I said, okay, this is my universal like session transfer, which I created with Claude. But it just helps you transfer a session. It doesn't matter where you're going. It just helps transfer you from a different LLM or a different session. So it wouldn't fill out the chat. But down here, one thing I do like, it has a way to like branch to a new chat and it keeps the history, I guess. I don't know. It's only been a couple of days and I asked for a refund. So I went to a different branch, which this is the other branch. And and mind you, the frustration comes because ChatGPT created the workflow. Keep that in mind this whole time. So now this is the whole conversation with me trying to get ChatGPT to troubleshoot the workflow that it created. Yeah. So here's the previous chat which you saw, and this is the prompt where I didn't need it. It just branched. Um, and then I said, okay, look, something's wrong with one of the nodes, just one of the nodes in the second workflow, because it's an 18 node workflow. And I said, here's the script, here's what it's doing. And I was like, I think the JSON is wrong and it's not defining the variable correctly. And I said, I think the path is wrong. So I was like, okay, the path is saying MNT data. And I said, no, okay, the actual path on my computer, I gave it my local file path, which I don't see where I gave it. Oh yeah, there it is right there. I gave it the local path. And then it said your path is this, and I was like, that doesn't sound right to me. That doesn't sound right to me either. And then I gave it the path that I thought it should be, but it was still pointing to a container. And then it said, okay, this is the file, the path that you gave it, then use this to change it. And I was like, wait a minute, you're supposed to be troubleshooting the workflow that you wrote. It was your recommendation. So I gave it all of the files and I said, this file, this step in the process is broken. Gave it all of the screenshots, everything that it's supposed to do, and it still kept giving me the wrong thing. So at this point, after I don't know, it doesn't give timestamps, but I promise you it's been over an hour trying to give it all the information that it needed. So I said, you know what? At this point, I went over to help and I said, I want a refund. I immediately jumped over to Claude, and this is the free version, not the paid version. And I gave it this, I gave it more context because Claude did not write the workshop. I mean, did not write the workflow, did not write the workflow. I said this node, which I changed the node to a different type to read from disk because the one that ChatGPT had given was deprecated. And I said, that doesn't even make sense. So I changed the node and I started troubleshooting. And I said, hey, I said, Claude, I need help troubleshooting this workflow. And I gave it the entire 18 nodes. I gave it the description and I gave it the two different outputs, the two different JSON files, the one that ChatGPT gave me and the one that I was just trial and error testing to see if I could get it to work. And it said, hey, I have these 6 questions for you. And I start answering the questions, which you'll see at the bottom. It said, what is the specific error you're seeing? Where is the file? What is the environment variable? What version are you using? And what is the selector? So to help it out, I gave it the problem. There was no output. The changes that I had made, the JSON script that was written, I gave it the actual location and I gave it all of the IDs of all of the files. And, here's my answer. I answered all 6. And then it said, hey, thanks for the clarification. I can see the issue now. Looking at your setup, there are several problems. Now, mind you, this took probably 10 minutes. This took 10 minutes for Claude to figure out the cipher and give me a clear path forward of what is wrong after I gave it the context because Claude did not write the workflow. ChatGPT 5.1 wrote the workflow. And I spent the good part of 2 days getting it to write and output the workflow. But in a matter of less than 10 minutes, describing the problem and giving it to Claude on the free version. It gave me a clear path and it said, hey, you're trying to get it from a container. Your computer doesn't have access to that. ChatGPT should have known that. I shouldn't have to. And here's the kicker. And I'm gonna end this because I don't do this, but it is just necessary because too many people are on the wrong bandwagon. And I use this. I use all of the LLMs many times a day. So I did not tell Claude that it had some persona. I did not give it some AI agent like persona to start troubleshooting. I said, help me troubleshoot this workflow, and it immediately took on the persona of a troubleshooter. So that is a big difference between using ChatGPT and Claude. It is frustrating. The only thing that Claude or Anthropic needs to do is change the fact that it times out and the token use, and it should branch like sessions the way that ChatGPT does. But other than that, it's just a superior AI. It's better.